conclude today's presentations. Actually, mic check. Are you good, sir?
Yeah.
Works? Good. Let's do the same in the form of a quick round of introductions. We can test the mics, and we can also get to learn our panelists a little bit better. As mentioned in the intro, I would like to pick their brains from their industry experience. But first of all, Sam, if you want to kick it off about a little bit of background on yourself, what you do, and how you relate to the Salesforce ecosystem.
Yeah, so can you hear me okay?
Yep.
So my name is Sam Wadwani, and I work for PwC. You may have heard of them. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for about 12 years now. I'm a Salesforce technical architect, and I lead I'm focused on financial services, but more recently, but I've worked in a lot of industries in the past, across telecoms and health industries and not-for-profit and things like that. I lead our architecture practice within PwC in the UK.
Thank you. Over to you, James.
Hey, hello, my name is James Radcliffe. I'm a Salesforce architect, but I'll leave out the word technical because I haven't got the certification yet. But I work for a company called Golf Breaks, so we're one of the leading global golf holiday service providers, so it includes in the name, Golf Breaks. So yeah, we organised golf breaks, holidays, tournament experiences for over 250,000 golfers worldwide every year, over 2,500 resorts and venues worldwide. My role is, as a Salesforce architect, is just about making sure we get maximum value out of Salesforce. Salesforce has been there longer than I have, really, since 2013 when it was first implemented. So yeah, my responsibility, as I see it, is just making sure that we get maximum value out of the platform, really, and that is utilising its full capabilities.
James is being modest. he doesn't have a certification yet. He presented at this year's London World Tour and was invited to Dreamforce as well if he could have went. So don't rush the certification is what I'm saying. And last but certainly not least, Bonte, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, I'm probably the least familiar with Salesforce, I would say. I've been relatively new to it, and I was part of the team that, somehow managed to convince our business to go down this route of a multi-year project implementing Salesforce across our global offices. But I work for a company called Howden, and essentially look after our innovation and business architecture practices. And we embarked on a journey with Salesforce and our partners, I think a couple of years ago now, to implement sort of global-wide implementation, looking at the insurance value chain and how we digitize it going forward. So I'll talk a little bit more about that and some of our ISV partners today, hopefully.
Awesome. I think your experience is definitely going to be great in terms of a fresh pair of eyes starting the journey early. But let's go around the different seats. And I want to start with you, Sam, for the very first question. And actually, I want to open it up with something I mentioned in the very, very, very beginning of today's presentations, which was the most common question we get at Salesforce. I invested in the tool, I invested in the CRM, I spent a lot of money. Why should I invest more? Why should I buy more solutions? Why should I invest in an ISV? You being a consultant, an architect, an advisor, a trusted advisor to many of the largest customers we have globally, what is your experience? What is the right answer for that? Why would you recommend it?
So I'll start by saying, in the 12 years that I've been in the ecosystem, it started, in the early years, by having the challenge of convincing customers why Salesforce, and that in itself was a difficult sell because cloud technology was relatively new and people couldn't really see the value. Now that customers have adopted it and they've embraced the benefits of cloud technology, the next question is they've adopted it, they've started using it, their requirements have changed or starting to change, they've got new use cases. Now the question is why not Salesforce? So everything tends to be Salesforce first. Customers tend to come to me and say, can I do X or can I do Y? And the answer is normally a resounding yes. my role as CTA and as an architect is to decide, okay, what is the optimal choice? Yeah, I'd love to say that every client's experiences and challenges are the same, because that would make my life a heck of a lot easier, to be honest. But in all reality, whenever clients are talking to me about their challenges or their issues, I always find that I'm reflecting on other experiences, and I'm able to say, right, well, that was the same as this other experience, or that was the same as the other. It's closely followed by, but it was different. So I would say, every experience I've had has always been similar. There have always been similarities, but the differences come in whether they're environmental for that particular company, whether it's a market constraint or market influence, or whether it's just a cultural change in a company that means their use cases are slightly different. And what I've found is that ISV solutions arise because of those complex use cases, and the ISV solutions apply deep design thinking on a focused area or domain, what that allows them to do is really concentrate on the problem at hand. It produces typically a configurable, pre-built, in a lot of cases best-in-class solution that complements the core platform, but it provides that solution to the actual complex problem that the core platform couldn't provide out of the box. The other benefit is obviously because you have this pre-built solution, it accelerates your roadmap, but it also means that because it's pre-built, you save on capex. There's a lot of financial efficiencies in adopting ISV solutions as well, and the maintenance as well. So OpEx is affected too, not just in the running of the solution, but also in the enhancements that come about by product development, and those in themselves give you a much faster route to market.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam. Very insightful. So, James, no pressure, but let's hear that in practice. The reason you presented at London World Tour this year is because the implementation you guys made at GolfBricks is one of the most impressive ones in the ecosystem. You integrated a high number of ISV solutions, not as many as we demoed, but very close, I believe 5 or 6, across a multitude of clouds from Salesforce. And it all works together seamlessly. So could you walk us through how that experience was, and more importantly, how did you get value, and what was the benefit of implementing so many ISV solutions across so many clouds?
Sure. So we, as I say, we've been using Salesforce since 2013. We use multiple clouds: sales, service, marketing, and experience clouds, the big adopters of the platform. But we turned to ISVs. I think to quote you earlier, Simon, with the we can do anything, but we can't do everything. I totally agree with that. I think that's very true for probably most companies, certainly us as well. So we tend to go with ISV solutions where to accelerate our transformation, as you did, Sam, and also just to tackle some of the challenges as we look to change our processes, as we look to provide different services to our customers, as we look to expand into new markets. I think one of the most recent examples of that is with our US business. So we're expanding into the US, which we're really excited about. It's the US office is almost operating a bit like a startup at the moment, and that comes with a number of challenges for us. And we almost the entirety of that business is built on ISV solutions and components. So things like as we adopt new employees to the business, that obviously generates a lot of effort with respect to contracts, drawing out those new contracts, the same as we try to onboard new hotels in that area. And we're able to kind of respond to that need with an ISV solution for document generation, which kind of reduces that to a few clicks, so it reduces that manual effort for us, which is great. Likewise, when we onboard waves of new starters, we want to keep our our service consistent and effective for our customers, which is challenging because there's various levels of experience. So we have a sales and service enablement solution that's kind of driving that Salesforce adoption, driving that process adoption, make sure that customers are getting that consistent experience irrespective of the agent's experience. We have a contact center, a busy contact center, so a bit like that white space topic, you know, we have to have a telephony integration. It's kind of essential for our business. We actually use Monash, which is, you know, we've had amazing success with it in the UK, and we've rolled it out to the US now as well, which is great. And what we're doing with that is, and what we love about that in particular, is we're not only routing our calls based on product knowledge and department and skills in these kind of traditional ways that you would route a call, we're also routing based on historical relationships as well, which means that if a customer calls in multiple times throughout the year or repeat business year after year, they're more likely to speak to the same sales agent. So that helps to give us a better level of personalised service, like everything that we're doing is for that individual. So yeah, ISVs, I'll wrap that up, that was loads more. But ISVs, we're not completely lazy as well, we do build our own things as well. But ISVs do help, you know, they're a massive help in accelerating that development. So yeah, huge part of Goldbrace's journey.
Thank you, James. And I think that's a really good insight on how to tackle these projects as well. Evaluate the business need, the business case, you know, stay customer focused, and then find the right, you know, solution, the right piece of the puzzle to make it complete. So, over to you, Bonzi. I wanted to ask you about sort of the opposite end of the experience. You guys just started this journey. I believe you used 2 ISVs, you're in negotiation with 1 or 2 more. And like you said, you're basically the new kid on the block, you're fresh to the scene. So could you tell us how different that experience was of finding that solution as somebody who's just tackling it for the first time and hasn't done this before?
I think for us, insurance is generally perceived to be really complex, but what actually makes it complex are the processes we essentially have. And where we are today is that we always wanted to move to a new platform, and the reason we ended up going towards Salesforce is essentially nothing. Like, to Sam's point, out of the box doesn't really exist in insurance. And for us, ISVs became so important right at the very beginning of that journey, where we were looking at our business, the transformation journey that we wanted to make, and the steps involved in getting to that end case where we wanted to make the processes, or replicate the processes we had, but make them a hell of a lot more efficient. We couldn't do that just with an perceived out-of-the-box application. So relying on ISVs got us to that point where we were able to embark on that journey a lot more confidently. Seeking them out has been, you know, mixed bag for us. I think flexibility is extremely important, and I think the ecosystem allows us that ability to experiment with different things and different applications, and get to the point where, you know, we're comfortable with the way a certain thing works, but also gives us the flexibility to adapt those processes and that ISV's own platform and help them, you know, the size of business we are today. I think we have a bit of a say in what and how the platform develops and how it interacts with our Salesforce instances. We are working with a partner called Novedea, who essentially built a Salesforce product, and I think the way we have initially, you know, found some of our ISVs are through really good Salesforce architects that we've had to got the opportunity to work with, who've recommended to us. A lot of it's been word of mouth, and I think going forward we rely heavily on that user base and our Salesforce architects to sort of guide from a technical perspective where we take our project and platform next.
Okay, thank you very much. For the second round of questions, I would like to focus on a variety of different topics specific to your knowledge. So for yourself, Sam, what I would like to ask you is into something quite topical, which is sustainability. With the energy crisis happening as well, it's quite a big focus us at Salesforce to invest in technology that helps empower end customers to change their carbon emissions, their green portfolio, but also for new players on the market to emerge and want to compete in this industry or grow this industry. PwC being one of the largest consultancies in the world, and you certainly having quite an esteemed position at the company, I would like to ask you, what is your vision how ISVs fit into that, and how can an ISV be an accelerator for a customer to achieve these goals, whether it's my own metrics for sustainability that I want to improve, or if I want to bring something to the market using my capability to support sustainability.
Well, I have to admit, I'm not an expert in ESG or sustainability, but you'll all be surprised to know that we have a team who are very good at this. No, in all seriousness, I think ISVs play a big part, and it comes down to their a shared responsibility in essence. I think ISVs need to first of all understand what their customers' concerns are in the area of ESG, whether it's economic, whether it's environmental, whether it's social, or whatever it is, and they need to then listen to those customers. They need to sort of then focus their efforts on what matters to them and what they want to bring to the table. I think the other thing is, like you say, in this day and age, it needs to become part of your core principles. So whether that be what you stand for, or how you yourself in your business are sustainable, be transparent about that, but also make sure that it's clear how that is built into your product as well. The other thing that I think is really important is to continue to innovate, and the ISVs in the room, you're very good at this, right? Because that's why you are where you are now. So continue to do that, but in the same way as customers need to be creative in their initiatives for sustainability, they need the support of partners and the ISVs who are providing the technologies to also help them get there. So you need to be creative, they need to be creative, and you need to work together. And then the last area that I would probably say is also important is continue to improve. So whilst the sustainability issues have been around for a while, they've come to the fore a lot more recently, and the only way that those issues are tackled is by continuing to improve on the technology, continuing to improve on your business and how you meet those challenges.
Thank you, Sam. And I wouldn't say related, but adjacent note to that, something that really links into what we discussed in the first round, and the question of change in general. James, I want to talk to you about really the effect a successful pilot or taking that first step towards change can mean for a business. What we often see is the do nothing mentality, right? Keep it as it is. I don't want to change. I don't want to take a risk. For yourselves at Golf Breaks, obviously you went through a lot of change to get to the stage where you are now. What was your experience in terms of change in mentality, stakeholder buy-in, and confidence that yes, you can solve problems, yes, we can discuss these issues now, yes, we believe that after what we accomplished, we can talk about looking for solutions, taking a look at the market, and bringing something in-house that could enable us to do even better?
I think in the 6 years that I've been there, there's been a big change. I arrived shortly after the initial rollout of Salesforce into our contact center, and it was eye-opening. A lot of pain, a lot of change management is always difficult, always very challenging. But over time, what we've done is as we've evolved the platform, as we've introduced these ISV solutions and done some trials, we've seen a massive shift in the attitude and the attitude towards change management as a whole. So much so that we're in a kind of more fortunate position now where the stakeholders are really kind of almost thirsty for more. They want to know what else can be done with the technology. That wasn't always the case. Initially, it's like, look, just leave me be, I know what I'm doing, you don't know how to sell, you don't know all this kind of stuff. And as we started to implement these things, and they started to get those eureka moments and hit the benefits of all those technologies, it's suddenly, you know, it's almost ingrained in the kind of cultural DNA of the business now. Every call is all around, we say Salesforce, but Salesforce plus ISVs, it's all kind of, for them, it's all the same thing. And every day they have those kind of, no, it's not, but
Giving us too much credit.
but yeah, over time, you know, they really start to see the potential, and they start to get a thirst for technology and come to us. And the bigger challenge for us now is trying to keep up with it and trying to prioritise and trying to deliver more for them. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Absolutely. And then, well, that was the ideal scenario. And now I want to ask you about something that is a bit more challenging because it relates to rules and regulations. Insurance, unlike many sectors, is highly regulated. A lot of rules to follow, a lot of boundaries you can't really push. So, in the topic of the nature of change, what was your experience like in such a highly regulated industry? How did you find implementing ISVs and how ISVs helped you get around these tight corners and these regulations?
That is a loaded question. So insurance, the entire value chain from sales to claims, regulation is everywhere, right? At every aspect. I think we're early in our implementation, but we've already rolled out, you know, entire sort of our ecosystem, our target ecosystems in specific regions. And I guess what we've found from a regulatory perspective is that you can change some things, you really can't a lot of other things. And the way, I think it's, to your point, it's a cultural shift. And the way we're getting buy-in, how ISVs help us is, I'll take an example of, we've got some partners here from DocuMotion who we're using. And it's really difficult to convince people who've spent their entire life working in a function in an operational function where they've stuck by regulation and legacy processes and ways of doing things, to then see a newer process and a newer platform and convince them that actually these 4 steps that you used to take, you know, the platform can do 3 of those, you only need to do 1 of them now. It's really difficult, and where ISVs have helped us is, I guess we've been able to communicate to certain extents the time savings that some of these platforms deliver for us and can deliver for these individuals. And it's slow, it's hard, but I think the ISVs help us immensely in terms of the value that their platforms are able to deliver on top of the Salesforce ecosystem that we're building. So from that perspective, they're extremely important. And regulation is a mixed bag. You know, we've experimented in order to get to the journey that we've embarked on now. We went through numerous iterations with various different vendors over the years where we relied on automating regulation and making it less obstructive. I'm not sure what the right word is. Less of an obstruction. Yeah, exactly. And I think the way we did that is, you know, through automation and integrating with partners who had technologies that were able to deliver the same output in a much more efficient fashion. I think we've got Dun & Bradstreet here as well, who we utilize a lot for our sort of ongoing KYC monitoring and whatnot. And I think ISVs who deliver that sort of, you know, old, necessary and traditional way of outputs, but in a new fashion, are extremely important.
Great stuff. Thank you very much for that insight. Going back to you, Sam, for my final question to you in this final round. Since we started with one of the most common questions we get in the ecosystem, I want to continue with one of the most common mistakes. And this happens a lot when it comes to interactions with consultants, which is viewing the investment in an ISV, the project of rolling out an ISV, as a one-off. I allocated a budget, I hired people, I outsourced some tasks, I've completed a project, job done, goodbye. That is one of the biggest mistakes companies can make, because they're completely ignoring not only the recurring value, the return on investment, the long-term focus on value that ISVs can provide, but also the continuous challenges of business faces, not just with adoption, but the problems you haven't discovered yet, you don't know about yet, and the problems that an ISV could potentially solve, even if you don't use that feature, that functionality, that add-on, or just that aspect of the product as of now. So can you walk us through what your opinion is on that topic?
Things change. Things change all the time, right? You know, customers' expectations change. Your business priorities change. Customers these days, they expect secure solutions. They expect sustainable solutions. They expect more convenient solutions that are geared towards their experiences. And that's been a trend throughout the market. It's increasing, certainly on the convenience side. Security is ever present. And so your businesses as customers and ISVs have to change too. They have to change in terms of your internal vision, but also down to those expectations of your customers too. To meet those experiences, I see it as powered by data flow. More data is out there, more data needs to be connected, but it used to be connected, now it needs to be hyper-connected, and what that leads to is more composable architectures. Composable architectures where each system in that technology estate holds less responsibility, but when combined together, offers greater collective responsibility and capability as well. So I definitely think you've got to keep on matching the expectations of your customers with the priorities of your business. The products themselves always tend to have some form of feedback loop, and one of the best facilitators of that is to ask your customers what they want, or what their customers want. As the products develop and as you release new features, a customer must then match that to their needs as well. So it's a constant, catch-up process of changing needs. How are you going to meet them? It can't be a one-off thing.
Thank you very much. And James, I would like to continue that thought actually with you directly. Based on all the terrific information and food for thought Sam provided, what was your experience at Golf Breaks? Since you guys succeeded in cracking the code for long-term value, how did you get the most out of your ISV investment over time? And what steps did you take to prepare yourself for the challenges of tomorrow?
So I totally agree with what you're saying, Sam, and it's been my experience actually that most ISVs do put a lot of effort into obviously evolving their products, and certainly the ones that we've gone with, and they continue to innovate, and it's nice not having to drive that innovation ourselves. It's nice to be able to leverage these new pieces of functionality as they become available, and quite typically they work seamlessly with Salesforce as well. They're on a data silo, so it's just in a weird way, we've got one of us coming in a couple of weeks' time to do a bit of a gap analysis on what we're not utilising, so we're a little bit behind trying to keep up with them and their innovation, which is a lovely problem to have. But it's kind of critical, I think, for us, and so one of the major benefits of going with an ISV partner is that they can keep an eye on that whilst we're building a customer portal or integrations or whatever, routine solutions, whatever we're focusing on. Just having these kind of moving forward as well with us is fantastic. I think, and that will add continued value over time, and I think also the data adds continued value over time as well. Having everything under one umbrella, having that visibility, not just operationally, to sort of run the day-to-day, which is obviously very beneficial. You can service out real-time data from all these connected platforms, including Salesforce, right up to the C-level, but also just what you can do with just the practical application of the data that is kind of a never-ending source of value. So we're no longer, we're only sort of entering the space now properly, but starting to look at not just as deals as like closed or won, how many have we done, how much money we made. We're starting to look at that sales cycle and look at all the data points that we have available to us to start to learn and draw insight from that. What are the activities of our top achievers? How quickly are we responding to our customers? Are we more successful if we call versus if we send an email, if it was a templated email versus a personalized email? all of this data is available to us now, and we're starting to focus a little bit more on the science of selling, which is really interesting, and I think it's gonna open up new doors for us. So I think that's where the value is going to be for us in the long term.
Great stuff. Thank you. And final question of the day. Again, no pressure. But Nancy, I want to ask you, since it's fresh in your mind that you guys just been through this process, based on everything you heard and everything you experienced, what is your recommendation for the attendees who want to embark on this journey, who want to expand their ISV portfolio, invest in an ISV, start reviewing their business and finding solutions for their challenges? How would you recommend going about that? What would you recommend, what steps they should take?
I think coming from a sales background, working as a broker, I'm extremely jealous of where James was at. I'd just like to say, first and foremost, that's the dream, getting to the point where you just have the platform and you have it and you trust it fully to just do what you want and you can focus on that ability to grow. I think that's what we're aiming for. But I think to answer your question, I think I'm a sucker for old cliche sayings. So, it's a marathon, not a sprint, that sort of thing. But ISVs can help you speed up that journey. And I think I mentioned the point about flexibility earlier. I think it's important to be flexible when you're looking at solutions in ISV partners, and the advantage you have is that you can go through proof of concepts and testing really quickly to test out different solutions. But at the same time, it's important to look for flexibility, and what I mean for that is when you're looking at partners, it's really, really important that not all ISVs will understand the complexity of your business, and making sure that both parties are aware that they're embarking on a journey to create something together, and the ISVs, taking the industry experience and learning from the advantages that they might be able to sell to future clients and improve their value proposition, but at the same time being flexible in catering to the needs of a business that might be coming from a very legacy background. That's extremely important, and I think being clear with ISVs and partners from the get-go from that perspective is really important. I think we've got industry partners, I like to call them, and not competitors, and Gallagher's here. But I think the biggest thing, and there's a lot of learnings from the journey that we've already embarked on, but one of the biggest ones is probably make sure you set a plan out for benefits analysis. It's really, really important. These projects can take a lot of resources, a lot of time and money, and it's surprising the times we ourselves have been culprits of going out, implementing a solution, and then realizing actually we spent this much and we know how much we've spent, but we've no idea how we quantify the benefits. Quantifying benefits isn't easy. Sometimes it's not just monetary. Sometimes you might have to look at time savings. Sometimes there might be no other way of looking at it, but it's really important that you have a strategy in place for measuring how long certain processes take, for example, and what value you want to aim for, and how much you deliver on that. And that's been a big learning for us, and I think and besides that change, I think you guys were talking about earlier, and how complex it is in insurance, the cultural factor is also a big deal, and bringing people along in that journey, and age-old sayings of how you manage change, and bringing people along, having SMEs, making sure that your SMEs are integrating well and speaking to your ISVs. You're not building a platform and a service that you're going to have users for. You're essentially building a company-wide application that you're going to expect these users to use on a day-to-day basis. So build it with them rather than for them. But yeah, that's just some snippets, but I could talk about all the things that went wrong and everything that's going right and how we're going to improve all day long. But I think that's good for now.
We always focus on the positives. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, all three of you. It has been amazing talking to you. I really want to thank you for your time and the great insight you provided to us. And I want to encourage everybody in the audience to please take advantage of the guys sitting here and reach out to them after the panel's over to shake hands, introduce yourself, and ask questions directly. Thank you very much.